What made you think you need to move to Harvard to study?
The number one reason was definitely like Harvard is known for its brand. The brand recall of Harvard is very high.
How many interviews have you taken so far?
I was applying to maybe like 50 to 60 jobs a day. Like,
So, how is your experience studying at Harvard Business School?
yeah, my experience at Harvard Business School was nothing short of transformational, I would say.
So, hi, welcome to my podcast. You're Abhijay Arora, Vieru, right? Nice meeting you. How is US right now?
Hi, Vaishnavi. Glad to connect. US has been pretty great. It's actually 10 p.m. here. So, and I'm connecting from San Francisco.
Great, great, good. So thanks for connecting at 10 p.m. with me. It's morning here, around 11 a.m. for me, but yeah, thank you so much for connecting from San Francisco. And so, um, probably just try to introduce a little bit about you. I mean, I know so much about you, but I know like you're working with Google right now. And how is your experience working with Google?
Sure, I can share some a little bit about myself. I We can start with Google. So I'm currently working with Google. Specifically, I'm working with YouTube as a product manager, and I work on the living room team. So any of you who have watched YouTube on the TV, that's the team I work on. And it's been pretty interesting so far. I've just joined in November last year, and it's been pretty fun, especially because YouTube on TV has been growing extremely fast. In fact, it's the fastest growing surface on YouTube. So it's like a rocket ship right now, I would say. So it's been a lot of fun building features. I work as a product manager, so thinking about what products users would love. It's been pretty exciting.
Great. I think you've got quite a bit of experience working as a product manager with Hilti Group, and now with Google, right? So, how is your experience studying at Harvard Business School?
Yeah, my experience at Harvard Business School was nothing short of transformational, I would say.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is not just the academics, but the biggest takeaway for me was the network of professors and a great deal of friendships that I took away, which I really cherish and enjoy bonding with, right? I think these two of my best takeaways. I really had a great time 2 years immersing in the MBA experience, taking a break from my work life at Hilti and getting into education. I personally love studying. I enjoy being in the classroom and learning has always been my priority. So I really enjoyed the 2 years. HBS, Harvard Business School, follows the case study method. It's an interesting take on how we look at every company, right? It's presented in form of a case rather than just like a lecture taught by a professor. Okay.
I've got a few questions prepared already. Okay. I mean, I'm excited. The inner child in me is really excited to talk to somebody who has, you know, achieved an Indian dream that is dream to like almost many students, like 90% of the students. I mean, they only dream, but there is that 1% who gets into Harvard. So what do you think that one quality that helped you get into Harvard Business School?
I've spoken a lot about this. Usually I do that on my LinkedIn. But the idea is always like one thing I would definitely say is uh, the mindset of resilience. I think that's the most important thing. Like you need to have a mindset of resilience where you like, I can get this. I think that's the number one thing which I would say is stopping people from getting into Harvard, right? Or any other top institution for that matter. It's only when we stop believing in ourselves is when the battle is lost. Till then, the battle is always on. And I believe that if somebody is believing in themselves, nothing can stop them from getting into Harvard, right? Uh, it may be a no now from Harvard, but that does not mean that the destiny is going to be no. So I think it's just the mindset of resilience, which I say that keep shooting your shot, right? Given a chance, take every chance you can get to improve your profile, take every chance you can get to improve the test score, take every chance that you can get to think about making impact at your work so that you put your best application forward. And I think that's what differentiates anybody else from somebody who has a resilient mindset.
Great. So when you said take every opportunity, I did see your LinkedIn post which says um you turned the rejections into coffee shops. I mean, coffee. What was it? Sorry. Yeah, coffee shops and
Coffee chats,
coffee
yeah.
dates, coffee chats. Yeah, you turned rejections into coffee chats into referrals. So how do you basically convince the people who has rejected you to come get a coffee with me? Hey, Abhijay, come get a coffee with me. Even though you're rejected, it's fine. But how do you do that?
Yeah, I think once somebody says no to you or rejects you, I think you don't have anything else to lose after that, right? Like once somebody has said no, that hey, I'm not going to offer you a job, I think
The
the
worst thing
as
that
as
someone could say is no, right? That's like the worst
yeah,
possibility. Yeah.
yeah, and once they've said no, you are like, okay, I cannot lose further from here, right? Like, what more can happen? So I think that just makes that it made me fearless. So I would just
Mhm.
tell them that, hey, I know it's not a no this time, and I understand maybe that there were better candidates suited for this job. That's why you didn't like offer this job to me. Uh, I would just love to chat with you to see to explain more about what I've been working on, and I saw that you were working on this particular thing. I could just brainstorm with you and add value for both of us. Would you be open for a 10-minute chat? Right? I think that's how I would like approach these, right? Because maybe the person that you spoke to said no to you, but perhaps they can connect you to three other people who you would actually gain something from, right? So I just feel like just because somebody says no, usually people are like, oh, this person said no, so I'm just going to cut connections with this person. I don't think that's the right way, right? Like I said, you cannot lose anything more. So you've already lost. So why not like try to get to see other people who this person is connected to who can help you land the dream role that you always wanted.
So, what made you think that? What made you think you need to move to Harvard to study? Like, what was that intention? What is the intention behind studying at Harvard, even though you've got little experience back then?
Yeah, I think for me there were a few reasons why I wanted to move to Harvard, right? The number one reason was definitely like Harvard is known for its brand. The brand recall of Harvard is very high. Uh, I thought of Harvard always as an investment into something better for the future. And
Mm-hmm.
given the brand recall of an institution is so high that it opens many doors for you, which probably a job would not open. So that was like a bet I was taking that I should bet on myself on going to Harvard and opening new doors for me that I could not open in my current job. And that kind of turned out to be true in hindsight, right? Like if I think about it, like taking that bet, leaving a very pretty decent job. I was pretty happy in Hilti in Switzerland and trying to leave that and then coming to Harvard. I felt like it was the bet I was taking. And it was number one was brand recall. The second thing was also, I just felt I have worked for about like almost 5 years in Hilti. And I felt like sometimes you reach a point where you feel like I wish I could be learning more, right? Like, oh, there were so many things I didn't know that I could learn about, right? So I was in a very narrow function and I was thinking, how do I expand my horizon? Can I learn about new things which I haven't thought about? So honestly, I didn't even know about the different career paths that existed for somebody with an MBA, like before coming to Harvard, right? It was when I got to Harvard, I'm like, oh, these are also different career options. And there were so many interesting things and it just
Right.
widens your horizons. And I just felt like that was something kind of like eye-opening. So brand recall, opening up like my mindset towards more opportunities. And the third reason was definitely I come from a background of tech. So I did want to see like what is it to work in the Silicon Valley in the US. And I thought that Harvard could open that door for me, especially because it allowed me to move to the US, right? So it was like a change in geography where I knew that technology was moving at a rapid pace and I wanted to make that shift of geography.
Okay, great. That, I mean, that sounds really good. So when you thought about studying at Harvard, even though you were working at a very great place in a very decent job, um, when what I mean, that's a great shift. Getting you're working at a great job and moving to Harvard, that's great. But for students from India who has probably studied BTech or some kind of bachelor's degree, students who have studied bachelor's in India, how do you think they could think about studying at Harvard? What all should they do if they have to study at Harvard?
I think you can never be too early to start preparing for an Ivy League education or Harvard, right? If you are somebody who's like studying, doing your BTech in India right now, there are a lot of things you could be doing. Uh, Number one, I think would be think about like taking initiatives or leadership opportunities at your school, right? So you could, for example, think about taking a leadership position, maybe like running one of the fests, the college fests in your college, or
Yeah,
running a campaign that something that aligns with your values, but showing leadership, showing impact, I think you don't need a stage to do that. You can do that right from where you are, right? So taking initiative and showing some leadership capabilities early on, that's very helpful. The second thing students can also do, I think, is taking the GMAT exam or the GRE exam early on. These exams get difficult to take when you start working a full-time job. So I think the school is the best time to use some of their spare time to prepare for exams, competitive exams, and get a high
like
score.
when you say
Uh,
school, high school.
and
Okay, yeah. Do you think
yeah,
would they
so
require
yeah, getting like a high score.
oh, sorry. Do you think would they require any coaching or any training for them to like, score better at GMAT? What all sources would you suggest to score better at GMAT?
So GMAT specifically, students, I remember like there's this official guide which is published by the test makers themselves. Like uh GMAT is the organization which creates the GMAT test. They have
Mm-hmm.
this the official guide, which is the official book for you to like see the official questions that are tested on the exam. I would just say getting a copy of that and spending a lot of time with the questions on understanding what exactly are they testing. I don't recommend mindlessly solving, but actually looking at each question, taking your time to understand what's it's testing, and then building that muscle over time, right? Don't time yourself saying that in the next 3 months I'm going to get that target score, right? Like I feel uh, you should have that flexibility where you're like, I'm just going to get better at taking this exam and get a score that I'll
Yeah,
be happy with instead of like, I'm going to finish the exam in 3 months. So I think the number one source is the official guide, but it really depends on what your style of studying is. Like some people like watching videos, some people like getting a personal tutor. It's all up to the candidate on what kind of learning they want. But I would just recommend starting off with the official sources which are available, provided by GMAC.
okay. How much time did you take to prepare for it?
My journey was, I think, pretty long, and it was a journey of, like I said, a journey of resilience, like taking the test, failing, taking the test, not getting the score, taking the test again, and taking the test till you actually get a score that is you're happy with, right? So it really depends on what your expectations are from yourself as to when that exam would end for you, right? Like if your expectations are like, hey, I and it also varies profile to profile, right? Like if somebody is, for example, an Olympic champion, just an hypothetical example, they may not need a very high
Mm,
GMAT score because they've shown leadership or something in a field already, right? But if somebody is like, let's say,
yeah,
let's say somebody's not having a great GPA, they may want to show a high GMAT score to say that, hey, I can excel at I can handle the math, I can handle the verbal. So it really depends. I took specifically, I think my journey was pretty long, and I don't know if I should be saying this, but almost like 4 years. And that was a
yeah,
time when people would be telling me that, oh, you're still studying for the GMAT. Oh, why didn't you get your score yet? So I would just tell people to
No,
like just believe in
mostly not your
themselves
mom and
and
dad.
keep
I'm pretty
grinding.
sure your mom and dad might be extremely supportive. But when it comes to if probably if your mom and dad informs your relatives about, oh, my kid is preparing for GMAT, they'll be like, oh, what are you doing? Did your child take these many years to clear it? I mean, there'll be like so many questions from the relatives' point of view, and that kind of
Yeah, yeah,
stresses
yeah. Like
the
it,
students.
yeah, like
So how do
sometimes
you handle that?
relatives can be snoopy. I think I would just look at it as just noise.
Noise, yeah.
And
They're being very
I've had
nosy, to be
like,
honest.
yeah, I feel that it is I think I think they could be a bit nosy at times where, but I would just look at them as like, for me, it was just me fighting a battle with myself and
Mm-hmm.
proving my version, the previous version who took the test, that hey, I can do better. That's it. Like for me, it was that, and everything around that was just simply like noise with people telling me that hey, why are you still studying, or why don't you like focus on going into your career? Like I knew what I wanted, and I was gonna put in every damn effort I could to get to that. So. I would just say that as long as the belief inside you is there that hey, I can get this. I think doesn't matter what anybody else says, right? Like I've always like said this multiple times, but you only need one person to believe in yourself, and that one person can be just you. So I always abide by that.
Okay, great. Sounds interesting. And also, you are a triple IT graduate from Bangalore. So, how did you end up there? My own brother is like struggling so many ways to get into triple IT or even NIT. So, what are your ways? What are the proven strategies or proven ways to get there? Probably he's even thinking about many students now after the result. 12 students are thinking to drop out to probably get into IIT or triple IT, NIT. So what do you have to tell them? What is your proven strategies?
Yeah, so triple ITs are a great opportunity, a great school for those who are looking for something in computer science or electronics background. At least Triple ID Bangalore, when I was studying, had only two branches. Like it had computer science and electronics. So if somebody is pretty sure that they want to get into like the AI or uh, the IT boom, like I think they should definitely like consider Triple ID as one of the good options. In terms of the tips, I would just say like unfortunately, like in India, you don't decide on what you want to do based on your interest, but it's decided based on your rank in an exam, which is a little bit
Rank, of
unfortunate.
course.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So you need to clear. At my time, it was called AIEEE, which is now it's called IIT mains. So you need to get a decent enough rank to apply to these triple I's. I'm not sure if they still count your 12th score into giving you a final rank or
No.
like the overall rank that's prepared. I'm not sure about that. Oh, they
Yeah.
don't? Okay. Yeah, so but ultimately like you'll have to be diligent about like getting that score, which means like dedicated preparation and maybe some focused time apart from your 12th grade and your regular studies preparing for this competitive exam. I think that's the key according to me. But I would also say that if you want to get into some of these colleges are not they don't maybe they have their own examinations. So for example, and at least this is like maybe some at least a few years back, I knew that Triple IT Delhi has its own examination, right? But that requires you to be from Delhi, for example. So keep a lookout for like one thing I would definitely recommend students is to check out the websites of these different Triple ITs. Sometimes they also have a limited or a quota of students which they take from their own examination, and not everybody comes from IIT JEE main. So keep an eye on look and just make sure that maybe there is an opportunity specifically if you're from that state and that triple IT is in your state. It could be helpful to check the website to see if they have a specific exam dedicated for candidates of that state, or maybe if you have like qualifications as you did extremely well at sports in your or you played a sport at national level, international level. I think that helps, and also getting some of these admits. So it's very specific to the triple ITs, but the number one tip would definitely be to score high in the JEE main examination so that you can you can have a choice of the triple IT that you want to join.
Okay. So do you think studying in Triple IT helped you land a job in Hilti group of companies in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia? Or do you think any individual who has got potential, what I'm talking about is probably brand, IIT, Triple IT, or NIT, PITS Pilani, probably these are brands, right? So probably not
Yeah.
graduating from these universities yet if they possess good amount of skills, do you think they would still be able to get into Harvard, or they would be able to get a good job probably at Hilti or anything that is more similar to that?
Yeah, I think in my mind, getting into one of these institutions like IITs, NITs, or BITS or triple ITs is neither a necessary nor a sufficient condition for you to get into any of these big colleges, right? The reason I
Agree.
say that is these, but that doesn't mean that these colleges don't enable you to get there. Like they help, right? Like if I would, they open doors for you, which would have otherwise been harder for you to like open yourself. But if somebody's like, let's say that doesn't make into any of these institutions, right? I don't think the the journey ends there. That person needs to just work harder than a person probably who has gotten into these institutions because these institutions are going to open more doors for them. But that doesn't mean that somebody who didn't go to these institutions cannot get to Harvard, right? Like for me, I was the first person in my undergrad to get to Harvard Business School. And if I thought this
Wow.
way that, hey,
Like from Triple
nobody
IT
from
in
my
Bangalore
institute,
itself. Mm-hmm,
yeah,
mm-hmm.
there was nobody else who went to Harvard Business School. And I mean, this stat was there with me when I was applying. And if I thought that, hey, nobody from my school has ever gotten into Harvard, uh, maybe I should not apply, right? Like, I don't think they take it. Like, I think it's all about the mindset. If you have a mindset of growth where you're like, hey, if nobody has gone, I can be the first one. You will get there, right? Maybe you don't get there in your first attempt, but you get there in your second attempt or third attempt. So I just believe that those who keep trying, time changes for them. So that's how I think about it, and which is why I don't believe that you need to be from a particular institution to get to Harvard or anywhere, right? Like those are just constructs that we create, and that hey, like I need to be from a particular school. It does help it does help your chances, but I don't think I don't think if somebody else hasn't gotten to these institutes, I don't think they cannot like go to Harvard or anything. I think they just need to work harder and have more dedicated and focused efforts and do probably more than somebody who's gotten into these colleges.
Okay, great. I think that was on point. Not necessarily to be from these universities, but you need to work more harder to get into those Ivy League colleges kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what is the process? What does the process look like to get into Harvard? After you resigned, what happened? What all did you do to get to that place?
Do you mean to say like after my undergrad, like what happened, or how did I prepare when
Because
I
you
was working
started
at Hilti?
preparing while
Any
you were in
specific?
undergrad. Were you preparing for GMAT from undergrad?
Uh, Not really. It was at the back of my mind, but I actually close to my graduation. Yes, I would say actually during my it was maybe like a couple of months before my graduation where I understood that hey, may be important for me. So I did like start preparing. Yes, in in the year of my graduation where I was like, hey, need to figure out how to tackle this exam. So I think the one thing I would definitely tell any students who are watching this is get your exam sorted out early. It'll help you a lot because then you can focus on your work and show impact on your work. Otherwise, you'll be juggling two things with work and GMAT. So get GMAT or GRE, whichever exam that you want to take out of your way in your school. And second, I would say is like in your first job as well, don't try to optimize for money. I don't think that's the right mindset to have. Just optimize for yourself, saying that, hey, is this the company that can give me the growth that I'm looking at, right? Like, can I grow 3x, 4x in this company in the span of 2 years or can I just have so much more impact, so much more ownership? I think that's what highlights it. Don't do the conventional things what everybody else would do, right? Like I think, and it's a sad reality, right? Like in India, the way the placements happen is like there are these day one companies, day two companies, kind of like sorted in the order of packages that they offer. And students also pick opportunities based on the salaries that they offer, which I don't blame them for, given that maybe they have spent on they maybe money is a motivating factor, but I don't think if your aim is to do something bigger, I don't think money should be a motivating factor. It is a factor, yes, but the bigger factor should be how much impact can I have in this role. So that's something I would urge the students to think about when they think about the first job that they want to get, right? Like, which job can give me growth? Which job can I have an impact on? Because ultimately, when you write your resume for Harvard or other schools, right, they will look at career progression. They'll look at like what did you do in your work, and if you
Mhm.
were, let's say, like maybe you had a great package but didn't have significant like shown some significant work, it'll just look like, oh, this person was posing or being lazy during those times. So I just feel like let's opt to optimize for the right things. What I would tell the students, right? Like choose the right job is very important.
Oh, it's basically somebody with good skills, with good package. I mean, somebody with good skills who is in a good job, good decent job, probably at Infosys or probably at Wipro. Um, if they have to study in the US, probably data science or AI or machine learning or cybersecurity, how do you think should their path be? What all should they focus on during that process? How many years of experience do you think they should gain before moving? Or is it personal? Or do you think networking plays a huge role? Or what is that you exactly feel like will take that person from working at Infosys from a normal job to a great university, not necessarily a Ivy League, but a great university at US, mostly for technology related courses.
I would just say that if somebody's, let's say, working at the names that you mentioned, Infosys or Wipro, uh, I would focus. I think it doesn't really matter that much whether you're working at Infosys or a company, as long as you're showing impact at work. I think even people at Infosys or Wipro, if they have shown a lot of significant ownership and progression, uh, I would say that would help them stand out. In general, my advice like would be in terms of like try to move. So this is for purely for people who this advice is specifically for people who are looking to transition to like a tech kind of a university. I feel like working in a product-based company is a better option than working in a service-based company. I
Mhm.
also think because of the fact with this entire generative AI boom coming, a lot of the services will be automated in maybe less than 2 3 years, right? Like where so I feel like to stay upskill, working in a product company could be helpful as that would give them more insights into what the consumers are thinking, get them to direct touch, and also like understand because I feel service based limits some of those opportunities. So shifting to a product based company would be helpful to understand the business models, what are the customer touch points, and so on and so forth. So I feel switching into a product-based company would be helpful. Secondly, I would also recommend like you don't need while you're at your main job, I would spend time on upskilling themselves with courses, right? Like I think there's so many free courses out there. Just have to do a search, right? And get to the courses. In fact, you don't even need searches today. You can ask LLMs, right? You can ask LLMs on, hey, teach me about this thing. And they can start learning on their own pace and building that muscle for that transition in the future. So I just feel for somebody who's right now, let's say in Infosys or Wipro, number one thing would definitely be taking courses to upskill themselves while they are here, like to show that to basically tell the university that hey, I've already started learning about this field, right? I started learning about cybersecurity already. So this it shows initiative. Second, try to make the switch to a product-based company to also learn. I think if you are get a chance to work in a fast-growing startup, I think that would show uh, a lot of impact and learning that you can show and talk about in your application, right? And I think with these two things, it'll give them like, hey, I'm prepared to like tackle the next thing, like which is getting into this school, right? Like, and maybe during this journey where you're like transitioning from your regular job, you can also find the time to take the exam. A high score on the exam would also indicate that this person is pretty skilled. So those three things I would recommend to all the students or people working in Infosys.
Actually, you've answered my next question as well. My next question was, how did you shortlist? How should you shortlist companies, probably to work or to even to get an internship? But you already answered that in your previous question, so thanks. So, you prefer networking, upskilling, as a major part, which has helped you land at this position, right? I mean, yeah, why not? So, talking about internship, what helped you apply? What helped you stand out when it comes to internships? I mean, I'll put that question back for the recording. Okay. Um, what strategies? What strategies helped you stand out while applying for internships in the US? Because
I
I saw
think
you did a
the
summer internship with Apple, right? So,
Yeah, landing an internship at Apple was special,
mhm.
especially when I had come with dreams of working in the Silicon Valley. So getting an internship from Apple was like a dream internship for sure. I think the job work actually the job market in the US works differently from, let's say, a country like India, right? Job market in US, I would say, is pretty much self-facilitated. You have to
Mhm.
do your networking, you have to figure out the path. It's not like a company would come to your campus and recruit you. It's not like how it works
I
in
think
the US. So
it doesn't work like that anywhere apart from India. That that
yeah,
system is existing here. I think it's purely to make business out of it. But yeah.
yeah, I think that's pretty unique to India. I think the way recruiting happens. But like I was saying, here
Yeah.
in the
I feel
US,
like that is kind of
uh,
making students lazy as well. Like, when they move abroad, they are dependent on something. I mean, India kind of, gives you things to be dependent on something. When you're going to a college, when you're going to study in a college, the college brand saying that my students have got 1 crore package. We are offering 100% placements. So they have got that mentality where, okay, if I'm going to a college, then probably that should help me get a job. That degree should help me get a job. That brand should get me help me get a job. I mean, that's crazy. So what do you think? Do you think that brand should help you get a job? What do you think about that perspective?
I don't think a brand can help people land
Yeah,
jobs. It can
yeah.
land at interviews, but it can't land jobs. The reason I say that is like if you look at even a place like Harvard, which probably is one of the very well-known brands in the education space,
Mm-hmm.
if people don't have the right skills, then they'd find it hard to get employed, right? Will they get interviews if they showed Harvard? Yes, I would say if I saw Harvard on someone's resume, I would be like, I should give this person a chance, let me interview them. But
Yeah.
will they go through all the rounds and get a job? I think that depends on the candidate. Like it's
Okay.
all on the skills. So I feel it's skills first and brand second when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
jobs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, did you face? Okay, let's be real. How many interviews have you taken so far, and how many rejections did you face? How did you go through that? How did you like, go through those rejections?
Yeah, job recruiting can be tough, especially if you have spent like $200,000 on a degree, and then you are now faced with the reality where you're like, hey, where's the job to start paying the loan installments, right? It can be difficult. I faced, Honestly, I may have lost count of the rejections that I have gotten in this process. Uh, maybe I was applying to maybe like 50 to 60 jobs a
Yeah,
day. Like
daily.
it was
Did you
just
say
like
daily?
casting a
50,
wide
60
net.
jobs daily?
Yeah. I would just cast a wide net. Like I remember I went to a website of one of the companies I wanted to work at and then applied to all possible jobs that I thought I would be a fit in. And I would agree or I would admit that it was pretty mindless to not cater my resume to that every role, but I was desperate to get a job. Like I won't lie, I was desperate to get a job. And I I applied to so getting a rejection was like an everyday email from me. Like maybe I would get at least one rejection a day saying, "Hey, sorry, we moved ahead with other candidates." And at first, it hits you hard. Second, makes you feel bad. Third time, you're just immune. You're like, "Yeah, this is another email that's come," and
Yeah.
it's okay, right? Like, so it becomes a part of your life where you're like, I won't let one company judge me, right? Like, hey, if they don't want me, then I would say that I'll find something better. So that was the mindset I had, and I continued recruiting. Rejections were common. I think that's part of the process because you don't need to count the no's. You only need to count or get one yes. That's what matters at the end, right? Like, nobody cares how many no's you had as long as you get like a yes in the end. So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
never thought about that, and maybe there were like countless no's, I guess.
All right. So I've got another few more questions. I think it's already an hour now. I'll quickly move. Okay. Um, yeah. When it comes to mindset and strategy, right? What role did consistency or personal branding play in your journey?
What role did consistency or personal
And
branding play in my
yeah,
journey? Is that the
in your
question?
journey. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Honestly, it's hard to create a personal brand when you haven't shown results. Like, it's the harsh reality, right? Like, why would somebody want to follow you or if you haven't like shown them something that they aspire to be? And for them to see something that they aspire to be, you should have achieved something that is significant, right? Like, so it's at a time when it's hard like to create like a personal brand because maybe you have not achieved that one major breakthrough. One thing I'd recommend is like celebrate the small wins, right? Like I feel that's something that we don't do of enough. So for example, like I remember when I graduated, I did a post like on LinkedIn that hey, I graduated from Triple ID and I had my parents come in and join me in the graduation ceremony. I would like if I ever won a hackathon, I would write about it on LinkedIn saying that, hey, I won this hackathon, this is how I participated, and this is what I learned from it. Like I just feel it's those small wins which get you to start building a small following. But that following will only like will have that upward trajectory like once you hit that major breakthrough, right? But the fact that you have been doing these celebrating these small wins gets the audience warmed up and starts creating a smaller community, I would say, but nonetheless a community, right? So I think celebrating small wins is extremely important, be it like getting that promotion or having that impact at your work or like executing a fest in your school. I think people should talk more about that and just say that, hey, I did this. It's a good way to channel out that energy on social media.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, even when I had a little bit of following, I had like 690 followers last February 2024. So, I mean, when I posted few videos, I didn't have any expectations to be honest. I was like, I don't care, I just post. But when you said like there should be a breakthrough, right? When I started speaking about the real thing, then that skyrocketed within just 3 months, 2 months of span. I gained like around 100K followers. um so that was like
Wow.
massive, yeah, because that's when the real I understood that's where I've put in the real work. But those initial work that I've put in consistently, to be honest, I think that, encouraged, let my followers, the small following, know that she's gonna do something. She's up for something. You all should be alert. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it kind of snowballs, right? The smaller
Mm-hmm.
wins that you celebrate kind of snowballs ultimately when that big moment comes. And when all of that comes together, there is like this exponential growth which you were talking about. But I'm just curious on what changed in your, like, did you start speaking about something else when you had 600 followers versus when you actually got like this big burst of followers? Was there like a change in your narrative, change in your style, or it was just a stroke of luck?
Okay.
Go ahead.
If you had to start again today from zero, remove all connections from your network, what would you do? Where will you start from? What will you exactly do from today? For the next 30 days, what will you do if I remove all the followers, all the connections that you have? Probably all the job, the degree, everything.
So it's not like I don't have that many followers. I have maybe 25,000 people on LinkedIn and like 5,000 on Instagram. It's not too many.
Oh my God,
So I
20,000?
think
See, I was invited to speak in VIT for an event like last week, right? To inspire students because I'm from Vellore VIT. So they wanted me to like convey students about how my journey went from Vellore to UK to becoming an entrepreneur. So I saw 2,000 people in front of me. The auditorium was filled with 2,000 people, 2,000 students.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
so shocked. 2,000 is this many? I was like, really?
Mm.
When my videos or my reels, when I see 2,000 in that, it looks so small. But when I see them in person, 2,000 is like humongous, unimaginably great.
Oh
So,
yeah, actually, if I think of it, yeah, it's a big number. I agree, but
yeah,
I was just trying to place it in perspective of like I feel I have just gotten started, and there's a lot more to be done. So I just think of myself as
for sure.
somebody with just like still starting out. But nonetheless, to answer your question, like let's say like I if I didn't have like an Ivy League education or working at a big tech, what are the things I would do differently to get to this point?
Yeah.
I think I'm
So,
just
what will
thinking
be a
of
30 days plan?
thinking.
Like, exactly. Like, you're starting from today. I'm taking all of the things that you have right now, your connections, your LinkedIn, your work, your experience, everything. So, how will your next 30 days look like?
Yeah. Yeah, to be very honest, I think it'd be very hard for somebody to change their life trajectory in 30 days and say that I'm gonna get to Harvard in
Hopefully
30
not.
days. I,
Of course not.
it
I'm not saying that you're going to land somewhere within 30 days,
okay,
but
yeah,
intensely, what would you do in the beginning, in the starting?
okay,
Because people struggle to start. They like the goal, but they don't start. So the
yeah.
starting part is like very hard.
I think it's always good to work backwards, right? Like think about your eventual goal, and that really goes very personal to you, right? Like what are you gonna do in your life? Maybe if you're not able to think that far, maybe people think maybe in span of 5 years, where do you want to be in the next 5 years? Like ask yourself that, and from there you try to work backwards. Okay, 5 years later, I want to be a product manager at Google. How can I get there? Okay, the different options I can get there are one. I can join maybe Google now and then work my way up the ladder. Option two can be maybe I go for an MBA and then sit through the placement cycles and hopefully get to a product manager. So, or the third could, yeah, I don't know. Like you think of different paths to your goal and you start working backwards. Okay, let's assume that we're taking the path where we're going to do an MBA and then get into product management. So you're like, okay, to get into MBA, what are the things I need? I need a good GPA. I need a test score. Okay, so if I need a test score, what do I need to do? I need to start studying today. So just planning your days back, planning it backwards is a very effective technique to have those milestones that by this time I'll love to get like uh, figured out this part of my application, figured out this part of the journey. So setting, just having, I'm not saying like hardcore time box these things, but having a rough idea of, hey, this is the timeline I'm looking at, these are steps that I need. It just helps you break down the journey into smaller chunks. And then you attack these smaller chunks by starting off. Let's say that you decide, I'm going to attack the GMAT test, right? So then focusing on one goal at a time. I think don't think now, once you have fixed their goal, like this is to get into like product management at Google, don't keep thinking about that as that goal. Like now your goal, next goal is to get the GMAT score. It's about the
So
smaller goal that
you
you chase.
segregate it to smaller goals. There is one big
Yeah.
goal, and the steps is going to be small, 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 small goals. So one after the other, one after
Yeah.
the other.
You are seeing only the small step and you're going to achieve that. Like you have fixed the big goal, you have decided all the
Yeah.
steps because now they're linked, right? You achieve one and you move on to the next. And you are like, I'm going to do that and I'm going to do that diligently, right? I'm going to do that irrespective of what the world tells me. I'm going to do that irrespective of what the relatives tell me, irrespective of what anybody tells me, right? I'm going to be focused on that and going towards that. So that's how I would do it. And I would not take any rejection as a final no, right? I just think success is not. Success is never delayed. Success is never denied. It's only like, sorry, wait. Success is not is is never denied. Yeah, it's only delayed. So
Yeah.
if you haven't been successful so far, that doesn't mean you can not be successful in the future, right? So keeping at it always goes back to the mindset of resilience for me, right? That's the number one thing.
Lovely
When
input.
you have broken down into the smaller goals, go for those goals consistently. in a mindset of resilience.
Okay, great. That's amazing. And what do you think? This is like the final question that I have for you today. Okay. What's the one thing that student waste time on?
Was
Are my
I
questions
think
really like
in today
tricky or something? Something that, you know,
no, 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 no. I just want to think before answering them in the right way. Uh, so I think one thing students should not do in today's world is so the world around us is made to capture our attention, right? Everything
yeah.
out there is trying to capture our attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to get lost in this maze, right? There's like if you open your phone, there's like so many things trying to get your attention on your phone, right? Be it a WhatsApp message, be it the YouTube shorts,
Yeah.
or an
The
Instagram reel.
endless
Like
doom
those are
scrolling.
like those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think some of this is helpful in terms of some. I don't see that. I feel like these are like, I think of these as like junk food, right? Like I always think of Instagram reels as junk food, right? Like, yes, there's a need, like you would love to get maybe a burger once a month or whatever, once
Yeah.
a week, right? But having a
Yeah.
burger every day is how I think about it, right? So these are calories you could get from the same thing that you're getting from this, you could get from other things as well. Like the hit that you're getting from watching these reels, you could get from elsewhere. Maybe you could get that by exercising, or you could get that by playing a sport, or you can get that by spending time with your friends. So I just feel like it's easy to get lost in this maze. It's important to like have that active control that, yes, I'm gonna eat that burger, but I'm gonna only spend it like 30 minutes. I'm gonna time myself and then I'm not gonna like do it. So I think that's if you have that discipline, I think in moderation, I think it's fine, right? Like as long as you're able to control yourself. But the problem is with the mindless scrolling and then just getting into that rabbit hole.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Um, that was a really great podcast, to be honest. Um, so many things out of you, and I see that you are a very, as you mentioned, very resilient, hardworking, consistent human being who is ready to like upskill constantly.
Yeah, yeah, that was very special, honestly, to me. And it kind of
Yeah.
like people just see that one 20-second video, but the kind of effort that's gone into that journey is unreal. And I know
Um,
it, I've seen it. And uh,
I
so
can
I,
relate to
I
it
just
very
feel very
much,
grateful.
and I wish you all the very best to, hop on that ladder, keep
Yeah,
climbing all the
absolutely.
way. Yeah. Great,
Thanks,
great.
Vaishnavi. I hope that you grow phenomenally as well, and I would love to stay
Mm-hmm.
in touch with you, and hopefully we can do more such collaborations in the future as well.
Sure. Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you. I
Take
hope the
care.
same and I
Bye.
appreciate it. Yeah, great. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.